Hi everyone, Nathan here with ATC Cooling and Heating. And today we're going to talk a little bit about package HVAC units. You see, last week my wife and I went for a walk in an upscale neighborhood here in Kingsport, Tennessee. Beautiful brick houses, most of them 2 stories, perfectly manicured lawns, giant garages with very nice machinery sitting inside and out of those. The very height of suburban paradise. Some even had waterfront views of the Holston River. It was a really nice walk. But because the neighborhood was so nice, I was shocked by the number of packaged heat pump units that I saw sitting outside of these homes. So much so that I even took a picture of one of those, and well, here's the picture. You can see what that looks like. This is a package unit sitting outside one of these really nice houses. Now, maybe you're not as shocked as I was to see all these, but let me explain what is a package unit for you and why they were so out of place on these houses. A package unit is a combined unit. It's both the air handler and the condensing unit in one giant box, and they sit outside and then duct underneath the home where they connect to the rest of the ductwork. I did a little diagram. You can see what that looks like right here. You've got the giant package unit sitting outside. You've got the ductwork going in underneath the house in the crawl space, and you've got the individual runs. Now, for you nerds out there, I didn't draw the return lines. I know they're there, okay? You don't have to email me about that. But this is kind of what a package unit looks like sitting outside of a house. It's in contrast to the much more common split system. So a split system does just what the name says, right? It has the condensing unit, the bigger box that sits outside that does the work, and then inside you have the air handler. And that looks sort of like this. Again, here's your house, here's that condensing unit that sits outside, here's the air handler, AH air handler, inside, and the ductwork that's going back and forth, and the rungs that come off of that. That red line that I put there, that's refrigerant tubing. That's carrying the heat or the cooling, depending on the season, back and forth from the air handler to the condensing unit. Of course, there are appropriate applications for package units, but for most homes, we avoid them. So let's look at some of the good points of package units before we get into some of the problems. First off, because the entire system is outside, a package unit can work in a crawl space that's really short. If you only have enough room for ductwork, well, that's okay, because everything else, the air handler, the condensing unit, all the equipment, that sits outside. Next, servicing a package unit is generally pretty easy. Why? Well, because everything's outside. You don't have to worry about limited access for your tools, crawling underneath the crawl space, potential critters that might be underneath there. All that stuff goes away, and of course lighting's not an issue either because you're outside during the day. It's easy to see what you're doing. And lastly, the initial installation for a package unit is pretty easy too. There's no refrigerant tubing to run. You only have one electric line to run as opposed to one to the outdoor unit and one to the indoor unit. So installation can be pretty simple too. Alright, so now the bad things about package unit. The first one that comes to mind, and this is kind of a big one, is options. There are precious few options for package units. And while for most manufacturers you might be able to choose between 6 or even more different split systems, with a package unit you might get 2 options, and that's it. You want A or B. Package units are just not volume products for HVAC manufacturers, and because of that, they just don't make too many of them. Number 2 is efficiency. The cooling and heating efficiency ratings for package units, they're really poor. There's no other way to say it. And let's look at a chart and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Here's a Trane manufactured package unit in 3 ton. 3 tons is a pretty normal size that you might have for a house. And they make 2 units. They make a higher efficiency one and a basic efficiency one. This is the SEER rating, and this is the HSPF rating. SEER is how they measure efficiency for air conditioning side, and HSPF is how you measure efficiency for the heating side. 15 SEER or 13 SEER are your only options here, and you're only about 6.7 to 7 for HSPF. These numbers matter quite a lot. The higher the number, the more efficient your unit, the less you'll spend running your unit across the year. Here's the contrast. Trane, again, so same manufacturer. Now we're looking at split systems. And I didn't even list them all. I just ran out of board before I got to the list, the bottom of the list here. But here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of split systems from Trane. And even the very basic unit at 14.3 SEER efficiency is pretty close to what you get from the best unit in the package units. And 7.5 HSPF is much better. And it only goes up from there. When you get to this XV19, you're at 17.5 SEER, which is a good 30 to 40% more efficient than the package unit, and you're at a 9 HSPF, that's nearly 50% more efficient. So efficiency is a big deal. Next problem with package unit is critters. After a few years, a package unit is all but certain to attract a family of critters living in and around the box that unit sits on. And that's not really that fun to work on, it's not fun for your house, and especially given that you've got a direct access to under your house from all of the ductwork. So critters go right underneath there into your house. Not very fun. Next problem, cost. Package units are just plain expensive. And considering the middling performance ratings you get from them, it's kind of unsettling to pay so much for your heating and cooling system. Next, I would say that they're unsightly. Now, remember the box that we showed you sitting outside of that house? That's a giant box and it just looks a little out of place there, and they tend to be kind of ugly. Another big deal for package units is their longevity. They just don't seem to last as long as a split system, and maybe that's because the whole thing sits outside, but generally we see a lifespan for a package unit of 8 to 12 years versus a split system that we see usually 12 to 20 years. It makes a difference. And lastly is the noise. Package units make a fair amount of noise outside. Now that we know the pluses and minuses for package units, what should you do if you have one in your house? Well, the first thing I would do is poke your head into the crawl space and measure the height from the ground up to the bottom of the joists. And if that space is 3 feet or more, you don't need a package unit. Next, see how old your unit is. If you don't have the original paperwork to look at the installation date, no worries. Just read off the serial number that you'll find in the outdoor unit to a local dealer. That dealer should be able to tell you when it was manufactured, and if it's more than 10 years, plan for a replacement. And when the time comes for a replacement, call a reputable HVAC company and tell them you want a quote on a split system, including the patch that you'll need for the side of the house where the ductwork used to go. You will like the split system a lot better, your electric bills will be lower, and your neighbors will like it too. Thanks for watching today.